Hi, it's Emily. Welcome back aboard Sailing Vessel Temptress. This is our 1967 Creekmore 45 that we live and travel aboard. My husband and I are doing renovations over the coming weeks, and we're taking you along with us. So come along and see what we're doing with the ceiling this week. Last week, Manuel did sanding and scraping of the ceiling. This week, we're putting him to work on stripping the varnish on the walls. Temptress has had her varnish refreshed over the years, but never taken all the way down, so we are giving her a full-on makeover, and Manuel is going to help us do that. While he's working on that, we're going to work on the ceiling fix.
First thing I did was cut out some punky wood that was in this deck beam. It looked really bad at first, I thought, but it really wasn't very much that was bad. I screwed a new hole in the grab rail so I could put a new fastener because the other one had been stripped over the years. A little glue after cleaning it up, and it was good and solid. This is called a rolykit. If you ever find one, buy it. They are the greatest thing for keeping fasteners organized. We have about 3 of them on board, and they're really useful. While I'm working on the ceiling below, Emily's up on deck checking for leaks.
Alright, I've gotten fixed the leak in here, or so I hope. I'm going to test it now, but I want to isolate this particular area from the rest of the places I need to test, so I'm using some blue poster putty to plug up both of these drain holes like a little cork, kind of like a chewing gum consistency. We're going to pour some water in, and then we're going to go down below and see if it leaks. No obvious drips. It was a tiny bit moist before we did this. Just kind of like a mushroom, a fresh mushroom, but it's not wet. Oh, feels good. We'll give it another, 20 minutes or so, see if there's a slow seeping. If that goes well, we can rule out the propane locker as a problem.
Does that mean I get to cover it up?
If we do the bucket test on the other trim and it's leak-free.
Okay.
Up until this point, Clark sealed the decks. We ripped out all the rotted wood. We did some diagnosis on the leaks. We even fixed a few of them here with some epoxy yesterday, and then I dumped buckets and buckets and buckets of water on these areas trying to get it to leak. Clark and I were a little bit head-to-head this past week. I said we have to make sure there's not a drop of water coming in the boat before we put something over this, and there were a couple, but we have addressed them now, and so it is ready to go. I am saying publicly on camera, I am ready to put these on here, and if it leaks someday in the future, I will not be sore and say, oh, we should have done a better job, because I think we've done a really good job repairing leaks. So we're going to take these boards that we've pre-cut long ago and add those, and that's going to give us a nice smooth surface that then we can refinish and do some caulking and painting. So we're going to have a nice structure and a nice aesthetic here. Make Clark happy and me happy.
I thought the whole beam was rotted because this handhold had pulled through. So I figured, the wood's all punky, this whole thing's going to have to come out. But that's not the case. I put another fastener in. We'll plug that hole with a nice teak plug when we redo this thing. This is all really good solid wood. I cut out this little vaguely rectangular shape. So the first step is I'm going to cut a piece that will go in here and fill that area in. I know a few of you are saying, oh, you just cut a deck beam. This is going to be the end of the world. When Temptress was designed, this is the beam that supported this section of deck. But now these are the beams that support this section of deck, and they are so substantial. And once we add this extra 1/4 inch, this is going to go from 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, and it's kind of like an I-beam. It doesn't matter the strength of the inside so much, it's the 2 outside layers that matter. And this is fiberglass and good plywood above, and then it's going to be a good plywood below. So this deck here is going to be significantly stronger than she was designed to have. This boat was designed in the 60s. It's one of the early glass boats. They didn't know about glass. They kind of were afraid of it, as you should be. And I think that the logic was, Oh, let's make it a little lighter than a wooden boat and see how it turns out. This is the most overbuilt boat in the world. This thing is just so solid, it's ridiculous. You couldn't afford to build one now. Just the cost of all the fiberglass, the hull thicknesses and such are just ridiculous. One of her sister ships has no bulkheads and is sailing around the Med, last I heard. That was years ago, but remember, this boat is a moderate displacement by the old style. It's really a heavy, heavy, solid boat. First step is I need to make a plug to fill in where that beam was rotted, and that beam has an angle to it. I'm gonna cut a piece of wood to that angle and go try it. If it's right, yay. If it isn't, no problem. I'll adjust that angle, and then I cut the width of it. So I can cut back 3 or 4 times till I get it close to what I want it to be, and then measure and take it, instead of cutting it out and then doing the angle. If I had a floating T-bevel, I could get the angle directly and get it right, and I have one, but I don't know where it is. I have too many tools, and it's too much of a mess right now. And probably cutting my leg off is what I'm doing. If I had a circular saw, it'd be great. But you gotta decide what you're gonna take with you tool-wise. A circular saw, huge thing, you know, it takes up a lot of room. Jigsaw takes very little room. So you work with what you got. Now, I wouldn't accept this looks terrible, but what it gives me is the rough angle. Now I'm gonna use a sander to straighten that out. Now this is very labor intensive, but on the other hand, maybe I'd use the circular saw 3 times in 5 years out here, and I'd be carrying this big monster with me. So I'd rather waste the time and sand it off and sculpt it into shape. Okay, just a little bit of sanding, and it's like I had a circular saw in the first place. It's a piece of teak, and it didn't need to be teak, but it's what we had. And it wasn't terribly valuable to us. It came off a wreck. It would have sunk and been called pollution. Now it's called parts. See if we can get that in there.
This magic moment.
Ouch.
Fixing up the boat
It's too low.
will last forever. Please,
Oh, that is so perfectly sung, Emily. You're gonna get us
so our boat
demonetized.
can float.
You're gonna get us demonetized with how close to the original you are. And the trick to work like this is twofold. When you get it in place, leave it alone. The only adjustment you make is make sure there's no big bumps of epoxy sticking down that you have to sand away. And then when that hardens up, we can fill in a little more and make it perfect. It's tack welded. I'm gonna fill up as much of this space as I can with bits of, well, what this is teak decking. Leftover, either pieces that actually came off Temptress from 50 years old, or the pieces I've cut to replace, but they're cut-offs and bits. Because teak's expensive, but epoxy is more expensive. 5, 6. Now, measuring this is not optimal. Optimal is a pump. But pumps don't see, I have had pumps before. When I used to build boats, little dinghies and stuff, I had pumps. I liked it. And I've always been wanting a pump, and I'm a mean guy, and I said, no, you can't have a pump because this stuff has to go with us out on the boat and the pumps leak. I just decided I think we're gonna buy a scale. And then we can do this by weight, which is technically what you're supposed to do anyway. And as long as we wrap the scale in something plastic when we're working with epoxy, it can be a galley scale, you know, for measuring out foods and stuff. So be nice. So don't do as I do, do as I say. Measure with a pump or a scale. What do you think about a scale, Emily?
I think it's the right way to do it.
Usually doing this with video is twice as hard, but Emily just moved around so that she's providing the big video light. It's making it easy for me to do my job. The hydraulic pressure on it, start losing it out in places. Well, that's been a good day. We now have the ceiling tiles in. Blue is still drying, but we'll take the screws out and cover over those holes, and that'll look great. We've got a piece of wood plug in here that once we fill in the gaps will look just fine, once painted, of course. Nice thing about paint is you can fix things and make them look the right shape and paint it. Varnish has to be done perfectly. So all the maintenance items have to be done to a different level. We get to take whole sections out. Paint is wonderful. There's one place on the boat where I had to fix something that was varnished. We're going to switch it to paint because the repair just isn't practical. But it's in the galley where things should be painted anyway, so we're sticking with that. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with today. We do some filling, and I think this is going to be great. Solid now, so it'll certainly be solid when the glue dries. I'm going to call that a job well done.
Well, that's about it for this week. We have the ceiling repaired, ready to be prepped and painted, and we've got a great start on the walls. Manuel's gonna keep sanding until everything is down to bare wood and we can start a varnish project. If you're enjoying this series, please give it a like, leave a comment below, tell us what you're working on your boat, and subscribe so you stay tuned about the next episode. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
The prep is everything. It is just so labor intensive.
That one looks nice. That one is all bunged up. Get it? Bunged up.